Welcome to Airmanship 2.0, what aircraft to fly and how to learn to fly them. I'm Dave Cook, the Executive Director of the Center for Airmanship Excellence. I see at least a couple of people here look like new names to me on these webinars, so let me give you a quick check out here on your control panel. It should be showing on your screen. If you click on the orange box with the white arrow in it, you can collapse or expand your control panel. This icon will mute your mic. We found it's best that if you can mute your mic from your end, that works better. It eliminates any feedback. Right now I have all the mics muted, but I'll open them up here in a little bit. Best way to do this is to use mic and speakers, but a headset. It works even better than that. You can dial in, use the telephone, and there's your information if you need to do that. Well, as you've already noticed, this is a PowerPoint presentation, but still there's no sleeping because this is a Wings Program Webinar, and you will get 1 knowledge credit for attending the webinar tonight. So everybody's on the honor system to stay awake. Seminar sponsors are the FAA FAST Team and the Center for Airmanship Excellence. I'd like to take just a minute here before we get into the meat of the webinar this evening to see if we can just find out a little bit about those of you who are attending, and I won't go through everybody so we won't take up a whole lot of time, but just to kind of get a flavor for who's on here. And Pat, since I made a connection with you here with the audio, I'm going to open up your mic, and would you mind answering one or a couple of these questions for us?
Most of my flying is done as an instructor. I give a lot of instruction, around 200 hours a year. I do some personal flying, not enough, maybe 30 to 40 hours a year. I fly everything from Cirruses to the Columbias. Do some multi-engine training also. And what brought me to this webinar is just more knowledge. The more I learn, the more I can pass on to my customers.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Pat. Appreciate that. Tracy, can you share with us a little bit about your flying background?
Yeah, I'm a P3C naval flight officer sitting in the back seat. That's how I began aviation about 10 years ago, and then I'm a CFI. Was instructed full-time about a year ago down in Memphis till we moved up here. Now I'm just kind of part-time in a little bit.
All right, thanks. Well, thanks for attending, Tracy. And Kurt, I'm going to try you one more time, see if you're hooked up. Your mic is open. Okay, well, for some reason we're not reading you, Kurt. Okay, I've got all the mics muted. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing with us. And you're pretty typical, although Tracy and Pat are more on the professional side. We get a lot of guys that are just doing this for personal flying, relatively low time. So we try to aim the webinars at all types of pilots just to explain to everybody what Airmanship 2.0 is and what it can do for them. All right, let's move on. The webinar series it consists of 5 separate webinars. The first one was Who's Behind Airmanship 2.0. We went over in some detail those of us who are volunteers for the Center for Airmanship Excellence. There's a couple of dozen of us now. Pat, in fact, is a volunteer. And we're doing different things to spread the word about Airmanship 2.0, to develop it further, to make it more available to everybody. So if you're interested in getting a little bit more involved in Airmanship 2.0 after you learn a little bit more about it, you might want to hook up with us here. We have a good time too. It's mostly senior aviator types, but we do have some junior aviators too, and even some non-aviators involved with us. In the second webinar, we talked about Airmanship 2.0 versus Airmanship 1.0. Now, I want to point out that these definitions that we talk about with Airmanship 2.0 and Airmanship 1.0 are our definition, the Center for Airmanship Excellence. We didn't get them out of the big manual in the sky. The FAA manual doesn't have anything about it. So we felt that these two types of airmanship, if you will, needed to be defined so we could talk about them and get some good discussions going and then start practicing Airmanship 2.0. So we talked about that in the second webinar. In the third webinar, we talked about your personal airmanship development plan. We believe that if you're going to pursue Airmanship 2.0, you have to have a personal Airmanship 2.0 development plan. It's the only way that it's going to work for you and allow you to get the value out of it practicing Airmanship 2.0 that you can. You have to have a personal airmanship development plan to do that. This webinar, we're going to talk about what aircraft we believe fit into the category of Airmanship 2.0 and how you should learn to fly them if you already don't know how to fly, or how you should get some recurrent and some additional training if you already have certificates. And then in the next webinar, the final webinar in this series, we're going to talk about why you need Airmanship 2.0 and how you can get it. I want to emphasize that what we're going to talk about in this webinar is just the tip of the iceberg. I've been saying that in every one of these webinars so far, and that's really the case. Even though we're going to spend about an hour together this evening, we're just going to scratch the surface on all this. We're just looking at that tip of that iceberg. There is a lot more information on this available to you, however. If you go to the Center for Airmanship Excellence website, this is the home page. There's the web address, airmanshipexcellence.org. Go into the Airmanship 2.0 subweb by clicking on that menu selection, and you'll land on this page. And you can see that there are a lot of topics that we address with video briefings and some text content on the various pages in this section. We go into a lot of depth on who we are, a lot more than we did in the webinar in this series. Same thing with Airmanship 1.0 and Airmanship 2.0. We devote a lot of time to each one of those. The current airmanship model is an integral part of Airmanship 2.0. You have to at least have a good familiarity with it to understand Airmanship 2.0, and so we have a briefing on that that is quite extensive. And then we talk about that airmanship development plan in detail. We talk in more detail than we're going to be able to talk about in this particular webinar about technically advanced aircraft, how they fit into Airmanship 2.0, and again, learning to fly the Airmanship 2.0 way. Then we have a briefing on Airmanship 2.0 support. You'll see as you learn more about Airmanship 2.0 that we believe it cannot be done solo. It's a shared experience. You have to do it within a flight organization committed to Airmanship 2.0 and Airmanship Excellence for it to work for you. So that in this briefing, Airmanship 2.0 support, we go over all of the elements of that. And then we expand on what the final webinar in this series is going to talk about, why you need Airmanship 2.0 and how to plug into it. Then we have a briefing on the ADSOD. Now this is aviation, so we have to have acronyms. ADSOD stands for Airmanship Development Support Organization Demonstrator. This is a demonstrator that we intend to stand up in the Chicago area to demonstrate that Airmanship 2.0 works. It's more fun, you get more out of it, it's more economical. All of the things that we talk about, the advantages of Airmanship 2.0, we intend to demonstrate those advantages to the whole aviation industry. Then we have a landing page right now, videos in production for flying partners, those people who fly with us because they're really an important part of your flight team. And then we have a menu selection here where you can apply. If you click on that button, you'll be taken to a page where you can apply as a CFAE, Center for Airmanship Excellence volunteer, as an ADSOD participant, or as ADSOD staff if you have professional credentials that might relate to what we're doing. And then, of course, at any time you can click on the More Info button and find a lot of other resources, a lot of other information that's available to you through the website, Center for Airmanship Excellence. All right, let's get into the meat of this. Airmanship 2.0, what aircraft to fly? Before I jump into it, are there any questions or comments? And I'm going to open up the mics. Just jump in if you have a question or comment. Okay. Again, I'll point out this is our considered opinion, and if you didn't get a chance to, haven't had a chance yet to view the who we are briefings, We're primarily senior aviators, as I mentioned, but we have a lot of extensive experience in all kinds of aspects of the aviation industry, a lot of experience in general aviation, instructors, flight training program developers, flight school owner and operators, and all kinds of things. Retired FAA inspector, guy that flew his own King Air for about 50 years, and a lot of great talent, but all of us are committed to Airmanship 2.0 and to spreading the word about Airmanship 2.0. So when we talk about the rest of the things we're going to talk about in this briefing, it's our opinion. And let me clarify a little bit what we're talking about with the kind of aircraft that we're recommending you fly if you're going to pursue Airmanship 2.0. We're talking about technically advanced aircraft. TAAs, of course, is the acronym. But really, as that pertains to modern light aircraft used for personal transportation and pleasure. So Airmanship 2.0, we believe, has been around now for quite some time in the airline and military world, but it hasn't been introduced in this way comprehensively to personal flyers. So we're talking about these aircraft as they relate for personal flying. Here's some examples just to clarify for you. Flight design, CTLS is, in our opinion, a technically advanced aircraft. By the way, the FAA definition, there is one for a TAA, and it's pretty simple but awful vague. And as I recall, it just says it's an aircraft with a moving map display and a GPS navigator, and it might say autopilot, but not really what we would think of as a complete definition of a TAA. So an example, if you had glass in this flight design with all the safety features, well, that would be a TAA in our opinion. Obviously, the Cirrus line TAAs, the Diamond line TAAs, and of course that Cirrus Vision Jet, for example, now that it looks like they're finally going to get a chance to build it and get it certified, would be a TAA. So all of these are examples of what we call TAAs. Now, take a look at these LSAs for a minute if you haven't been tracking what they've been up to here in the last few years in the light sport aircraft category. These LSAs now can take you all the way around the world. And in fact, two young private air, it's a Swiss airline pilots, flew two of these in a flight or two all the way around the world. 27,000 miles, 18 countries, 5 continents, over 2 oceans. Longest leg was I believe it was 15.5-hour, 15-hour, 45-minute leg, a Pacific leg. But they flew all the way around the world, absolutely no problems, in this little old LSA. I'd call that a technically advanced aircraft, especially with the safety features that the aircraft and the way it was equipped afforded this what we would probably not too long ago call a very risky venture, afforded a lot of safety to it, to where, you know, I don't think it was really all that risky the way they did it. And it took them from April 3rd till June 19th last year, so it didn't take them all that long. Obviously, they waited for the weather and the winds. They didn't push it. Also, aircraft like the Cirrus, for example, TAA, but it's got the performance now to fly anywhere you want on the planet. You might have to add a little fuel, but here's a flight plan, actual flight plan for an SR-22 from Oakland out to Honolulu, nonstop, of course. 13-hour, 27 minutes en route. So, and this particular flight, as I understand it, was a ferry flight, ferrying the airplane all the way to Australia. So, guys are flying aircraft TAs like the Cirrus all the way across the Pacific too. Now, if you look at that Pacific operation, it makes the North Atlantic route look like a piece of cake with one of these TAAs, because the longest leg on that route is only 520 nautical miles, and these airplanes all have a range up around 1,000 plus. So, and with all the communications gear, navigations gear, support, all of that that's available now to us flying these TAAs, you know, people are more and more frequently flying these kinds of airplanes over to Europe, back and forth. So, you know, these airplanes have a lot of capability in addition to having all this technology. The technology is part of what gives them the capability, but not all of it. The technically advanced aircraft safety is a big reason why we believe we should be flying these kinds of aircraft. And let me expand on that. When we believe that if you're going to call an airplane technically advanced, it should have a glass cockpit. But of course, some people, like the FAA, infer that a glass cockpit, they call a TAA, has a moving map. Well, I guess technically you could say if you had a Garmin 430 with a moving map, you've got a glass cockpit. So I want to clarify that. When we say glass cockpit, we're talking about at least two displays: primary flight display, multifunction display. This particular setup, which we plan to use in the ADSOT and put Garmin G3X's two screens with the Garmin GTN 750 touchscreen as the navigator. That's a glass cockpit in our way of thinking, with an autopilot and other things that we'll talk about here. Of course, the Garmin that should say 2000. I thought I had changed that label, excuse me. The G2000 now is the kind of glass cockpit we're talking about, with good interface, simple interface, but wide view, all the goodies on it. So that would be an example of what we're talking about in glass cockpits in the bigger aircraft. Now again, when we say glass cockpit, we're talking about the glass having the capabilities of synthetic vision technology, XM weather, terrain awareness warning system, traffic, and safe taxi with charts, georeference charts, approach charts, and taxi charts. So again, sophisticated glass. That synthetic vision should have the full capability, and of course all the Garmin stuff does now. The G3X has synthetic vision technology, and obviously the 1000s and 2000s have them. You can even get iPad apps now. I just saw a couple days ago with the synthetic vision technology. So this is the kind of glass we're talking about. Also, when we say technically advanced aircraft, we're talking auto flight. An autopilot, actually the whole system, avionics and autopilot, integrated in a way that allows you to fly the airplane in an auto flight mode. That is the safest way to fly in a lot of conditions, not all conditions. Yes, you have to be capable of flying the airplane without the auto flight system, but you also have to be capable of flying the airplane with the auto flight system. And all professional pilots know how to do both. Also, we're talking about enhanced vision systems, infrared camera linked to a cockpit display. This happens to be a Cirrus setup. We don't think they're quite ready, not quite cost effective yet for the LSAs, but they're going that way. But for all the higher performance airplanes, especially for us older guys, operating on the ramp at night, landings at night, especially using the smaller airports, making sure there's nothing on the runway, no deer on the runway, that sort of thing. And also helping you on low-vis night approaches in IFR. Also, we're talking about ballistic recovery systems on every single-engine airplane. Single-engine pistons are very, very reliable. Single-engine turbines or even turboprops are even more reliable, but they still quit. If they quit at the wrong time, the procedure. You slide your seat all the way back, you bend your head over, put your head between your legs, and kiss your goodbye if you're not in a good position at night over inhospitable terrain, over cities. Your chances of surviving an engine failure at night in a single-engine airplane are pretty close to zero, unless you have a parachute. And other situations where that parachute, as the ultimate backup, will save your bacon, just like an ejection seat does for the military guys. Why not? Also, satellite tracking systems are another critical component, piece of equipment that we include in the equipment list for technically advanced airplanes flown the Airmanship 2.0 way. Now, why satellite tracking when we have ELTs? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, the ELTs, as we have been seeing lately, are relatively unreliable. And if you have a 121.5 ELT now, well, you're back to the good old days. The satellites aren't looking at them anymore. So, good luck. If you have upgraded to the 406, the satellites are looking at you, but it could take up to an hour or 45 minutes to an hour to locate you, and then you only get maybe resolution down to 7 square kilometers. If you upgrade the 406 to have the GPS position uplink in it, then that's better. That'll tell them right where you're at, so that's good. But cables break, antenna cables have broken, and that Stevens crash up in Alaska, I think that was the last thing I saw. The cable had disconnected on the antenna to the ELT, so they didn't pick up the ELT. A lot of things can happen. But the ELT thing, it takes a while to get people schooled up. If you have a satellite tracking system and you have support staff, a ground support staff, we call it an ops center, think dispatch, flight dispatch, tracking your flight, watching, because this satellite tracking system uploads your GPS position at whatever rate you want to set it, once every 2 seconds, once every 2 minutes, once every 2 hours. So in an operation, a cross-country operation with support, we believe you'd have it set for every minute. So that's a good update on where you're at these kinds of speeds. So the dispatcher is tracking your flight. At any time that you have a problem, you just press this red button and it goes into continuous emergency mode, sending out your position continuously, and it sends an emergency alert. So now the dispatcher who's watching you, flight following, can get search rescue heading towards you right away. And now it becomes not search, it just becomes rescue, because the dispatcher is watching your exact GPS position, and when it stops moving, that's where you're at, and with any luck, they'll already be moving towards you. So that's a much better system, we believe, than just ELT. Of course, by regs, you have to have the ELT. Most of us old aviators are, the belt, suspenders, and rope kind of guys. We want at least ABC plans. So that satellite tracking system kind of falls into that category too. Also, we include in our equipment list satellite phones in every airplane that goes cross-country. Why not? If you've got that ground support team, you're out there tooling along, you decide, hey, I'm heading to Minneapolis, but I think I'm going to drop in over here at Rochester and visit Grandma. I got such a good tailman, I got a couple more, I got a little bit of time. So rather than you having to do the quick shuffle up there in the cockpit and rearrange everything, you pick up the sat phone, call back to dispatch, and say, here's what I want to do. Dispatch says, no problem. So while you're changing your flight plan, if you're IFR or going direct Rochester, whatever you're doing, dispatch is alerting the FBO at Rochester, getting your fueling situation arranged. If you need ground transportation, it's getting set up for you. They're doing the flight plan for you, a new flight plan from Rochester up to Minneapolis, filing the flight plan for you. Or let's say you're out there and the weather is deteriorating and you want to get better information, you call back to dispatch, you got your team supporting you, or the other way around. Dispatch is watching your needs. Let's say you're en route to Minneapolis again, to St. Paul, and NOTAM comes out while you're en route. And the dispatcher, that's part of his job, is to watch for that. So he picks up the NOTAM, and he picks up the sat phone, calls you, brings you up to speed, makes any changes need to be changed. So having that in-flight communication link means you never have to be out there alone, and it means you always have a team to support you, which is critical to safety, to ease of operation, to just having a good time flying. Also, continuing the equipment list, we believe that every airplane that has flown today should have angle attack indicators in them. But we intend to put them in the whole fleet for the ADSOD. That's how much we believe in it, and we think that this will go a long way. I'll show you another piece of equipment in a minute, coupled together, but the angle of attack indicator and this other piece of equipment should go a long, long way to eliminating that stall spin accident that we see in the traffic patterns or down low maneuvering. So that's a big, important safety factor. It makes flying easier, too, when you're flying angle of attack rather than airspeed all the time. Airbags, pieces of safety equipment that are essential. They've been proven to be very effective in crashes. Here's the other piece of equipment I was talking about. If you take a head-up display and couple it with the normal data you're displaying, but put that angle of attack indicator on it. Now, if you think about that dead corner there where you're making that turn to final with a tailwind, and you start cranking it around, you start giving a little bit of top rudder, and boom, there you go, right? You stall and spin. Well, if you're looking out at the runway where you're supposed to be looking in that kind of situation, you're looking through your HUD, and you can watch your angle of attack, and that isn't going to happen to you. Now, the military, the airlines, and corporate guys have had those head-up displays for quite a while now, but now they're affordable, light enough, simple enough to put in the kind of airplanes we fly, LSAs, Cirruses, general aviation aircraft. So we think that's an important part of the Airmanship 2.0 aircraft equipment package. Now, the NTSB just came out with a report, I don't know, time goes by fast the older you get, but maybe it was 6 months ago, it wasn't all that long ago, that said that they had looked at the accident rates for TAAs versus conventional aircraft. And they found that the accident rate was pretty much the same, but it was pretty tough because there were relatively few TAAs compared to conventional aircraft, and there was some apples and oranges problems with it. But basically, they said, I think, which something made a lot of sense, and what we've been saying for a long time, what we believe, is that these TAAs aren't going to do you a bit of good, make it any safer for you. In fact, they'll probably make it even more dangerous for you to fly if you don't learn how to operate them thoroughly initially, and then keep getting adequate recurrent training frequently enough so that you maintain your proficiency in using all of this TAA equipment. So that's the huge if, and most guys, almost everybody who are flying TAAs now, and Pat and I have talked about this with the guys he's working with, some of them he's working with in technically advanced aircraft, they aren't doing it right. They aren't learning it right initially, and they aren't staying current on it. So that's the big if. But if you do that, the NTSB said they believe that if you did that, then the TAAs would have a significant impact on the safety record. But if you have all the available safety features, if you have comprehensive initial and recurrent training, and if you operate these TAAs within a safety culture with a professional safety management system, which includes that ops center I mentioned, that dispatch operation is part of that safety management system, with risk analysis and all the things that go with that. If you do all those three things with these TAAs, then we believe they will realize that potential we all see for them for making flying, our kind of flying, much, much safer. In fact, we believe we could improve our accident rate for we personal flyers who are flying this way. We can improve it to the point where it's at least as good or better than the airline accident rate, which is 34 times better right now than general aviation. Well, that's the tip of the iceberg on TAAs. Again, there's a more thorough briefing on the Center for Airmanship Excellence website under the Airmanship 2.0 subweb. All right, at this point, are there any questions and comments before we talk about learning how to fly these TAAs? I'm going to unmute all the mics, so if anybody has anything, please just jump in. Okay, I'm going to mute everybody again. We'll move on. Let's talk about how to learn to fly these TAAs. Now, we all know that learning to fly changes your life. If you are already a certificated pilot, you know it already has made significant changes in your life, continues to make changes in your life. If you haven't learned to fly yet, I think you already understand that if you did learn to fly, life would be a lot different for you. You'd have a lot more personal mobility. You'd have a lot more confidence in yourself. You will learn a whole lot of new things. So learning to fly, the process of learning to fly, the continuing process of learning to fly is a life changer. So it's very important you do it right, because it's going to change your life one way or the other. So one of the things I like to throw out here as a tip, if you will, I've got 3 tips for you about learning to fly, but this could be about your continuing learning to fly, is don't teach yourself. Yeah, you've got to do a lot of self-study if you're originally learning to fly, or to keep your knowledge up, even if you've been flying for a long time. Like I read, I don't know, 5 or 6 aviation publications a month. I read 2 or 3 daily aviation newsletters on the internet. I constantly have some kind of an aviation book that I'm reading. I'm taking a lot of mini courses online. So yeah, you've got to do a lot of that self-study. But we believe that self-study should be, other than following your own curiosity and interest, should be directed. It should fit into this personal Airmanship 2.0 development plan. So, and you can't do that by yourself. Also, you know, all of the Airmanship 2.0 skills, the knowledge areas, you need to really have a mentor helping you to go down those paths in the right way, so you're not wasting time and money and you're getting better and better all the time. So tip number one is don't try to do this all by yourself. Tip number two, don't learn to fly only in the airplane. You've heard people preaching at you, you know, getting those simulators, getting those simulators. I've been doing sim instructing for about, well, this stint, 5 years out at Glass Simulator out at Aurora Airport, working primarily with guys who are on their insurance-mandated recurrent training, or some of them initial training, on high-performance singles and twins. And I talk to them and we get to know each other, and the only reason they get in that simulator, really, bottom line, is because the insurance company either says you have to, or they give them a big enough break on their premium that if they do go do the sim training, that it's more cost-effective to go do the sim training. I was at a Wings Program seminar last week where a brand new simulator, a Redbird, has just been installed. It's sitting there gathering dust, and there were about 10 guys there, and as we were standing around waiting for our turn to fly the Redbird, you know, we were pilots, so we were talking airplane stuff, and one of the guys says, "Oh yeah, you know, why should I come and fly this simulator when the cost of it with the instructor is almost the same as going out and flying an airplane? It's more than flying my airplane with an instructor." So, and the other guys who wants to build up his flying time, they think, well, I don't want to get in a simulator because I can't log that as PIC time. You know, there's all kinds of reasons why we don't want to fly these simulators, but they don't amount to a hill of beans compared to all the reasons why we should fly the simulators. You know, you can actually demonstrate actually practice emergency procedures and do all the stuff in the simulator, which builds that muscle memory. You can't do those kinds of things, most of those emergencies, in the airplane. You know, you can talk them through and all that, but you can't go through the procedures and then have to fly the airplane while you're doing it and go through the outcome. All of that, simulator. Learning procedures, you know, simulator. Practicing instrument flying, simulator. All of these things are best done in the simulator. So in reality, when you first learn to fly, your training should include simulator training integrated with your airplane training. And then as you get into your personal Airmanship 2.0 development plan for the rest of your flying career, whether you're personal flying, professional flying, and somewhere in between, doesn't make any difference, then you plan in simulator training that's integrated with all of your other training. So don't learn to fly only in the airplane. And last tip number 3, learn to fly right, because if you don't do it right, you know, you're going to end up like this guy. We have about 3 to 4 general aviation accidents every day. Guys are still running out of gas. Guys are still going off runways. Guys are doing all kinds of things, the same kind of things they've been doing for the last 30 years, the same things over and over and over, that are crashing airplanes and killing people. The accident rate in general aviation has been virtually unchanged for 30 years, moves up and down just a little bit. So, you know, you've got to learn to fly right, and then you've got to do it right. So it's both things. It isn't just the learning, it's the doing too. So that's my last tip on learning to fly here. So let's get into when we say learning to fly the Airmanship 2.0 way, what we mean. We don't mean flying old airplanes. That's the Airmanship 1.0 way. We mean learning to fly in new airplanes with all the new technology. Now, I'm going to show you, don't come to a 10-foot hover quite yet for you guys who say, wait a minute, you know, it's already been shown that the guys that are learning to fly on the glass can't fly airplanes. They can run automation, but they can't fly airplanes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking, because there's a first step before the glass, but I'm talking about using new airplanes with the new stuff that's appropriate for the level of training in them, with all the safety features, the airbags, the parachutes, the satellite trackers, the sat phones, all of that stuff in it, not the old stuff. here's the twist, here's the exception. We believe that the best way to start out learning to fly is in a tail dragger, conventional gear airplane. And I'm going to show you some reasons why we believe that in just a second. But we also believe that if you don't have a good solid base of tail dragger skill, that you should go get it. So this goes beyond the endorsement. You've got to get to where you are really good, like with this Cub, landing this Cub up to the max demonstrated crosswind. You got to be able to do that consistently and confidently. And if you can do that, you're not going to get screwed up in a crosswind in a Cirrus. You have to know how to fly the Cirrus in a crosswind. You have to practice that too. But you get stick and rudder skills. So the way we start people out is in a Cub. It has a comm radio, a transponder, and a traffic alerting system in it. And that's it. So it's contact flying. You learn how to fly by looking out the window, how to feel it, hear it, all those things. And you're flying this skittish little airplane on and off the runway, so you've got to build up those skills you need for that fine-tuning of your motor skills and your judgment and everything else you need to be a safe taker, offer, and lander, because I'm going to show you in a minute, we just aren't that in personal flying right now. So start to fly in a tail dragger if you haven't started learning to fly yet, but a modern tail dragger with all the features in it. And then if you haven't learned to fly, if you are already flying, go get some tail dragger time. All right, here's some of those reasons why we believe you should learn to fly in a tail dragger. Here is some accident stats out of the NAL report. That's the Air Safety Institute puts out the NAL report. Here's takeoff and climb accidents. Look at that, big category. Maneuvering, big category. Descent and approach, but it's part of this one really. Landing, big category. So if you look at those categories, you've got most of the accidents related to pilot error, when we make the mistakes, which are about 80% of all accidents now, of course, are pilot error. So we believe that learning to fly in a tail dragger or staying proficient in a tail dragger will clear up most of these, and then the addition, I'll get this a little off track here, the maneuvering, flight, descent and approach, all those kinds of things, landing. That's better training, better adherence to procedures, head-up displays, angle of attack indicators. They'll come into play there too. Now here's a look, drilling down a little bit deeper in just the takeoff and climb accidents. You can see here, stalled, settled on takeoff. Stalled, or loss of control. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go by that. Loss of control. Those are the two big categories there. And again, contact flying, stick and rudder skills, not only learning them properly initially, but staying proficient at them. And here's drilling down a little bit on the landing accidents, loss of control. Where you see this all the time. When I'm out hanging around the airports and I'm watching guys land, I see it all the time. Cirrus had this big problem last summer. They had a big safety push on it where they analyzed data, and Pat, you probably know more about this than me, but as I recall, the story goes that they pulled the data out of the G1000s on these landing accidents because there was a trend up on the landing accidents with the Cirruses, and they saw that the final approach speeds were starting to creep up. They were getting to be way too fast. And that is a general tendency in any pilot population flying any kind of airplane. We see it at the airlines, we can see it in the military. Once guys start getting really good with the airplane, they start feeling confident with it, they start cranking up that final approach speed. Well, that's fine if your technique includes slowing down before you get to the runway. But most guys, personal flyers that are not slowing down, and they get down and they land too flat, too fast, too flat, forcing the airplane on just a little bit or relaxing that back pressure just about the time you're touching, and you've got just enough airspeed still that you can get up on that nose wheel. And once you get up on the nose wheel, especially in an airplane like a Cirrus with a caster nose wheel, it's about all over from there. And I have actually seen 2 airplanes in my life so far go off the runways with just this wheel bearing. You get up on that nose wheel. And that's what a lot of these accidents are about, going off the end, or some of them too fast, going off the sides because they lose control. Loss of control, stick and rudder skills, and the best way to do that, to learn it and to keep it sharp, is with a tail dragger. And stalls, again, if you know the feel of your airplane, in flying and contact flying with that tail dragger, you're going to get a good feel for flying airplanes. Hard landings are just, not good control, and long landings, too much speed, and not good and bad judgment, right? So stick and rudder skills are what all of us need if we're going to fly that automation. We've got to have both. We think those stick and rudder skills are really the cure for those takeoff and landing accidents. And if we could just do that, if we could just improve the accident rate for takeoff and landing accidents by getting enough guys to fly this way, then our insurance premiums should go way down. The perception of dangerous little airplanes should go way down to the public, so that we get more people joining us in personal flying, more people learning how to fly, more of our non-flying partners who want to go flying with us will go flying with us. So a lot of good things come out of reducing the accident rate. And here's the low-hanging fruit. Well, this is one. We see two big pieces of low-hanging fruit. This one and the go, no-go decision, and doing that as a shared decision-making process other than a solo act by the pilot in command, which means a dispatch operation. So the Airmanship 2.0 way of training really has a focus on airmanship excellence. So it doesn't focus on preparing the student, if you will, the person, the client, the airman, I like to say, for a certificate, for meeting the practical test standards for a particular certificate. That's included in the process, but that's not the objective. The objective is to provide the airmen with the skills and knowledge that they need and the proficiency that they need to do what they've stated they want to do with an airplane. So if you just want to fly around in a LSA around the local area on a nice day, then you have to meet certain qualifications to be safe and efficient and be the kind of guy we want to share airplanes with, we want to share airspace with. So you have to figure out what that is, but that's part of the development process for the Personal Airmanship 2.0 development plan. So you decide what you're going to do with the airplane, then you can figure out, the mentors and your support team can figure out what qualifications are required so that you can do that safely with the airplane, and then that goes into your training plan. So that's your focus. Your focus isn't on just getting a certificate or getting a rating. It's on these qualifications, and qualifications taking a lot more than just the certificate requirements. Now, the reason this is a good idea is this is the way we've been doing it in the professional world. I don't know if you guys have had a chance. I see a couple new names here. I did 22 years at United, pilot for United, military aviator for 10 years, corporate charter pilot for about 6 years altogether in my career. So I'm a professional pilot. I'm not flying for a living right now. Thank God I don't have to do that. I only fly when I want to fly. I don't have to fly when somebody else tells me to fly. But it's an attitude. You hear this from the FAA administrator on down. Professionalism is an attitude. And I can tell you because when Al Haynes here, Captain Al Haynes, who was the captain of Flight 232, which was that United DC-10 that crashed in Sioux City back in 1989, I was at United in 1989. I flew DC-10s until mid-1989. I don't recall flying with Al. He flew out of Chicago too. I was out of Chicago, but I knew him. I knew of him. But after the crash, of course, we all got to know about Al, and everybody that talked about Al in relation to that or in relation to his flying said he was a consummate airman. He was always pursuing airmanship excellence. And, of course, I can tell you that the rest of his crew was doing the same thing. He had a first officer, second officer, and a DC-10 training captain who happened to be deadheading, so he had three more guys on his team to solve that problem of getting the airplane back on the ground. And they were all pursuing airmanship development plans that were there inherent in the airline process because we had, by the late 1980s, developed Airmanship 2.0 to pretty close to where it is today. Not quite, but it was pretty close to where it is today. We started that process in the late 70s, early 80s at the airlines and military. So it works. It works for the airline guys. Now, there are arguments that I hear all the time about, well, yeah, it can work for those airline guys, but it ain't going to work for us personal flyers. You know, they've got recurrent training, the company pays for it, they're flying these jets all the time. You know, yeah, those arguments at first blush seem valid, but they aren't. And I just posted 5 blog posts. In fact, they were in response to some observations that Pat had at an earlier webinar in this series. And they raised these kind of questions, and then I'm putting up 4 more. I'm sorry, Pat was 4. I'm putting up 5 more blog posts over the next 5 days from another gentleman pilot who is just a personal flyer who attended a webinar. And these questions came out. You know, yeah, you can do it at the airlines, but can you do it here? And I think the arguments are pretty solid. The logic is pretty solid that yes, you can do it for personal flyers. There's a way to do it, and that's what Airmanship 2.0 is all about. That's what we've been designing here for a while, and we think this will work and be cost effective, not expensive. Now, comprehensive airmanship training also has to include initial training, comprehensive initial training, not just, you know, okay, we're going to meet the practical test standards for your private pilot certificate and then kick you out the door. It's going to be initial training for the qualifications you need to do what you want to do with the airplane, thorough initial training. It'd be, and recurrent training. Recurrent training, it would be frequent, as frequently as you need it. Obviously, a brand new guy is going to need more frequent recurrent training than a guy with a lot of experience. If they're, you know, again, it depends on the kind of flying they're doing, so it has to be individualized how often you take recurrent training. But for example, we believe that a brand new private pilot should take recurrent training every 90 days. That recurrent training, though, you know, has to be part of his overall airmanship development plan that fits in. It isn't just, well, okay, here's 90 days, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll go do some takeoffs and landings. No, it has to be planned into the full development plan. So recurrent training and upgrade training. You know, it isn't just, hey, I want to go fly the, I'm flying the Cub, I want to go fly that CTLS. You know, okay, I'll read the manual once, the POH, and I'll go out and get my hour and a half with an instructor, and now I'm checked out. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about thorough ground school, individual study, thorough flight training, simulator training, park test simulator training. All of those things are included in comprehensive airmanship training. Also, the learning media should be a wide variety to accommodate all of our different learning styles, but also you should use the various media in different ways to, so that it's synergistic. You know, for example, you might read about a maneuver in a manual and then take a look at it on a DVD, see a video of it, go online and do a short course, interactive course on that particular subject. So using all the tools that are available today in the right mix. And again, you need help setting this up. Comprehensive airmanship training also includes the traditional classroom training. That's a great place to share things with the other people in the group. So you have to have classroom training, but it's also you know, a great place when somebody over there asks that stupid question they were afraid to ask, and lo and behold, everybody else in the class has that same question. So classroom, you have to have classroom training, and of course effective, structured, one-on-one training before and after each flight and sim session. Comprehensive airmanship training also, we believe, should be done under the FITS approach, the FAA Industry Training Standards. That's a partnership. If you aren't familiar with FITS, it's a partnership between the FAA, industry, and academia. The Center For Airmanship Excellence is establishing a partnership. We'll be part of the FITS team here in the not-too-distant future. It's designed, FITS is designed to enhance general aviation safety, so they want to get to the root of the problem, which is training. They want to do that by developing flight training programs that are more convenient, more accessible, less expensive, and more relevant, and they're scenario-based. And again, we believe in all this, and that's what we're using, developing for all of our training programs, are based on FITS, this approach. I'm a total proponent of scenario-based flight training sessions, simulator and airplane. Also, comprehensive airmanship training includes the right equipment. In this case, we're talking about the Aperio Vision 1000 system. It's a good example. It's kind of a Cadillac top end of the line of cockpit recording systems that you can use for flight training and for individual self-critique on every flight. The Sipario system we like because it's high-end. It's got a lot of capability. It's about the size of your palm, fits up there. It's mounted in the overhead, has a video recording capability, but also it's a flight data recorder, airspeed, altitude, heading, accelerations, bank angle, all that stuff, flight data recorder. So it records everything on a flight, including the video. And then you can access all of that information from any PC with an internet connection. So you can review every one of your flights, especially in the training environment. This is dynamite. It gets a lot more bang for your buck, which ends up being, we believe overall, you'll spend less money on training than the Airmanship 1.0 way, and it'll be much more effective. You can go over it 100 times, each flight, each lesson if you want. And you can look at the flight in all kinds of formats. You can watch the video. You can take a look at it graphically from different viewpoints. You see the instrument readouts there. You can look at traces of accelerations or headings or altitudes, all kinds of tools. Also, by the way, this system plugs into the safety management system, providing that flight data recorder data into the algorithms for the safety management system that help to keep everybody safe. So that's another story, though. And also, comprehensive airmanship training includes safety leadership throughout the training process. So again, the typical example is the instructors all have to walk the talk. They can't just say fly safe and then do it other ways. That's just a very simple example. But you need safety officers. The head guy in the organization has to be committed to safety leadership. You have to have performance management. That's part of that flight data recorder system. You have to manage the performance of the pilots flying the fleet of aircraft. You have to have safety coaching. You have to have a mentor pilot. You have to have instructor teams, everybody coaching safety all the time, peer pressure, positive and negative. And you have to address behavioral safety like impairment by fatigue and those kinds of things. How do you guard against that? How do you mitigate those risks? It has to all be part of this culture that you have to have in Airmanship 2.0 training. And also the comprehensive training has to include mentor pilots. This is actually your training team, composed of mentor pilots, senior instructors, associate instructors, and the Center for Airmanship Training Program Development team that puts together the tools for you to develop your personal airmanship development plan and develops the training programs used throughout the training. So you have a whole team. So when you learn to fly under Airmanship 2.0, you just don't go find an instructor, or maybe go to a flight school and they assign you to an instructor, or maybe you go to a flight school and you get a new instructor every week. You have a team made up of these kinds of people who work together to optimize your training. Well, that's a quick overview of what we call learning to fly the Airmanship 2.0 way. Tip of the iceberg again. So if you want to find out a lot more about it, go to the website, airmanshipexcellence.org, and go into that subweb, Airmanship 2.0, and you'll find pretty much, we think, everything you need to know about it or want to know about it now to help you to decide whether or not you want to start practicing Airmanship 2.0. Well, one last time, are there any questions or comments at this point? I'm going to unmute everybody. Just jump in if you have a question or comment. Mute all the mics. Okay, I'll take you guys on your word that you're staying awake. I haven't heard anything from you in a while, but I guess I'll give you credit for attending. Here, I'd like to suggest these next steps if what you've seen here in this webinar piques your interest about Airmanship 2.0. I'd like to suggest that you register for Airmanship updates by going to the Airmanship Excellence website, airmanshipexcellence.org. Register for the updates. They're free, and we keep you in the loop that way on what's up with Airmanship 2.0, what we're doing, opportunities for you, so on and so forth by Airmanship updates. If you have not caught the prior 3 webinars in this series, I suggest, I'm sorry, if you haven't registered for the next one, it's just about, the email's about to come out, so I recommend you register for that as soon as it does. These have been filling up. But look for the briefings you've missed at airmanshipexcellence.org. Go to the Airmanship Archives and you can find all of these briefings, because I'm recording this briefing and I have recorded the others. Go into that Airmanship 2.0 subweb and view those briefings. Again, there's plenty of information there, probably at least enough for you to decide if Airmanship 2.0 is for you or not. If at any point throughout this process you decide you want to participate, as I mentioned, there's 3 different ways you can participate. Click on the Apply button and fill out an application. And I'd also like to ask you whether or not you're convinced that Airmanship 2.0 is the way to go, to start spreading the word about it, because we need to get the dialogue going within the personal flying community about Airmanship 2.0. Because the only way that the guys are going to get to look at it is if they hear about it, and if they can get involved in a spirited discussion talking about the pluses and minuses and what's the best way to do it and all of that. That's all positive for all of us. So I'd ask you to start spreading the word about Airmanship 2.0. Well, thank you for your participation in the webinar. You can contact me with any questions or concerns you have. Give me a call on this number. I'm always happy to talk about Airmanship 2.0. You can email me at this address, airmanshipexcellence.org, and just first initial and my last name, D. Cook, K-O-C-H. Or you can click the contact button at the website, airmanshipexcellence.org, and get in touch with me that way. I'm always happy to talk about airmanship. So I'll leave you with this thought: fly safely.